What's up, Notre Dame fans? This is Patrick Engel, blueandgold.com, joined by our recruiting insider, Mike Singer. It's Friday, March 26, 2021. We're going to recap the week that was in Notre Dame recruiting. But first, want to make sure you guys are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up button, helps our videos reach more people. And if you want to get notifications for every new video we post, hit that little bell button below the video there. You'll be notified every time we put out a new video. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. Follow me at Patrick Engel _ and follow Mike at Rivals _ Singer. Mike, Notre Dame hosting a big 2023 visitor on campus this week for a self-guided tour. That's Carnell Tate, wide receiver from IMG Academy, originally from Chicago, former teammate of Notre Dame, 2021 signee Pat Coogan at Chicago's Marist High School. What are you hearing about how this visit went, Mike, and where Notre Dame stands here early on?
Yeah, I had a story on Carnell Tate posted on Sunday, this past Sunday morning. So he visited Notre Dame on Saturday, self-guided tour. Of course, the dead period is still going on at least through the end of May. But Tate was in town in Chicago seeing family and really wanted to get over Notre Dame for a visit. You know, he hadn't been to Notre Dame before, at least to my knowledge. So he went over, walked around campus, did all you can do, just as a normal citizen, just like if me and you, Patrick, we're at South Bend right now, or on campus, just kind of walking around. That's what Carnell Tate was able to do: see Touchdown Jesus, see the Golden Dome, walk by the stadium, all that good stuff. And he seemed pretty impressed. Notre Dame is a school that offered Carnell Tate early in the process. It was last September, I believe. Notre Dame was like the third or fourth school to offer him. You see on his Rivals page there, he's got 20 offers right now. I think this is a recruitment that Notre Dame should win. Notre Dame is, again, an early offer, a Chicago kid. He's playing down at Bradenton IMG Academy, which is interesting. You would think if he stayed at Chicago Marist, a very friendly school to Notre Dame, that the chances would even improve even more. But who knows? Maybe he transfers back to Chicagoland later in his high school career. He's just going into his junior season. But I like Notre Dame early on in this recruitment. Certainly if consider putting in a future cast, but I'm in no rush to do that because Carnell Tate's in no rush to make a decision. Still early in his recruitment. This is a young man who might end up with 40 offers when it's all said and done, and have everyone on his on his offer list. You got to remember, with someone like Carnell Tate, he didn't have a 2020 season, so the most recent film that schools have of him is either 7-on-7 tape. Yes, schools do actually look at that stuff. I know everyone doesn't like 7-on-7, but it's real evaluation tools. But before that, it's freshman 2019 season. If he were in Chicago right now, he would have a junior, like a modified sophomore season, a shortened sophomore season. So he missed out sophomore completely because he transferred to IMG. But really am expecting big things from him this fall. 6'2", 170 pounds, lengthy, speed. He's really the full package at receiver. He's going to be a top 100 player, in my opinion, when those 2023 rankings come out.
Carnell Tate is one of about 60 offers in the 2023 class Notre Dame has extended thus far. Who are some other ones to know, Mike, as far as guys you're watching and think Notre Dame will be really heavily involved with?
Yeah, Carnell Tate's definitely one, but I didn't want to include him since we just spent a few minutes talking about him. The first guy here, Alex Sonny Styles. He goes by Sonny more than he does Alex, but this is a young man who is continuing to rack up more offers. It says 6 there on his Rivals page, but I need to go update that because I know he just picked up North Carolina, LSU, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Were the first couple of offers last August after he showed out in a big way in his first game of the season this past August, which was on ESPN. He is a baller. 6'4", 208 pounds. Whether he's a safety, rover, maybe even like a defensive end. Like, he's one of those guys that's just super versatile. Notre Dame's recruiting him right now at the rover position. All of these guys that we're going to touch on here were involved in that pot of gold recruiting day on St. Patrick's Day, where many of them got on the phone with Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly. A couple of the guys we'll touch on here were offered by Notre Dame on St. Patrick's Day. So Sonny Styles, a guy Notre Dame's been in on for a while. Of course, the brother of Lorenzo Styles, Notre Dame receiver signee in the 2021 class. like where Notre Dame's at early on in this recruitment. Of course, their father, Lorenzo Styles Sr., played at Ohio State. It would be a tough blow for Ohio State if both of his kids went to Notre Dame. We'll see what happens with Alex Styles. I do think at the end of the day it's going to be a Notre Dame Ohio State battle, but who knows? Maybe Sonny is wanting to go play for an Alabama, go kind of blaze his own trail and not play for Notre Dame where his brother's at, or Ohio State where his dad attended. Certainly will be an interesting recruitment to follow. Next up, a quarterback offer. Notre Dame's extended 2 so far in the 2023 class, one of them being Arch Manning from Louisiana, of course, from the Peyton Manning, Eli Cooper, Archie Manning family. But that one seems like a little bit more of a long shot. Dante Moore from Detroit, Martin Luther King, seems much more plausible. And I think this is going to end up being a Michigan and Notre Dame battle. But his recruitment's just getting started, even though he got his first offer when he was in the 7th grade. So while his recruiting process, again, is just getting started, he got his first offer about 3 years ago. So this is a big-time player. My sources could not be more high on this young man's talents. He is an electric player, and spoke to him right after he got that Notre Dame offer, and he was really fired up. So I think Notre Dame's got a solid chance here. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, Keon Keeley from Tampa Berkeley Prep, 6'6", 220 pounds, from a profile school for Notre Dame. The Irish have recruited this school before, and we'll continue to recruit here as long as there are big-time players. I mean, Notre Dame's not going to make a big living on Florida, but there are some really high academic private schools in the Sunshine State where they can thrive at, and Tampa Berkeley Prep is certainly one of them. Keon Keeley, Mike Ellison does such a great job with defensive line recruiting, and I expect Keeley to be one of his top targets. And Keeley was someone who got his offer from Notre Dame on St. Patrick's Day and spoke to him. I'll have a story on him in the next few days at blueandgold.com. Next, Luke Montgomery. When he got his offer from Notre Dame, I was thinking of putting in that super early FutureCast pick. I don't really like putting these super early picks in, but he's someone I considered. But since that Notre Dame offer, Ohio State's offered him, LSU, his offer list just keeps blowing up. So the competition is tough for Luke Montgomery, listed at 6'5", 260. He can either be that big end or more likely just a super strong interior player. Like Luke Montgomery looks great on film, and he's been to Notre Dame before. So this is definitely a name to keep an eye on early on in the process. Last but certainly not least is Drake Bowen, in-state player from Maryville, Indiana. 6'2", 215 pounds is what he's listed at. Another one of these guys Notre Dame's offered early, but his offer list continues to blow up. I think when Notre Dame offered Bowen, it put other schools on notice. So he's picked up a bunch of other Power 5 offers since Notre Dame offered. But right now, you'd have to like Notre Dame for an in-state kid. Notre Dame's was such a big offer for him. Marcus Freeman, Brian Polian involved in this recruitment. So early on, like Notre Dame for Drake Bowen.
Let's end this with the 2022 class. Notre Dame's been sending out a lot of defensive back offers. I believe the most offered position in 2022 is defensive back. One commit right now, 4-star corner Jaden Mickey. Who are some other names to know there that Notre Dame's involved with?
Yeah, we're about to talk about, let's see, like a dozen, and there's more that we could go through. There's just so many names. I wanted to touch on this for the weekly recruiting wrap, so you guys know Notre Dame has a commit from Jaden Mickey, like Patrick mentioned, 4-star corner, but the names on the deep, there's so many guys that Notre Dame is involved with. So let's go through them. I think you have to start with Kamari Rogers, the number 6 cornerback in the country. I believe of all the guys that we're going to talk about, he's the highest ranked. You see the future cast here tied between LSU and Ole Miss. I'm not so sure. Like, if I were to put a future cast pick in for him right now, it would actually be Notre Dame. I think the Fighting Irish have a much better chance here than most people think. Rogers is looking to get up to Notre Dame in the near future, and we will certainly report on that if that happens at blueandgold.com and right here on our YouTube page. So Kamari Rogers, an elite top 50 cornerback prospect in all of the country. And if he's to visit Notre Dame, there's a good chance he he visits with Jair Brown. You see he's an Ohio State commit and from Westchester, Ohio. Well, he actually was playing 7-on-7 ball. It was a 7-on-7 base team in Louisiana, where Jair spent several years of his life, and Kamari Rogers played on that same 7-on-7 team. So these guys are close, really good friends. Are they a package deal? I don't really like that term because they often don't happen unless they're siblings. But these two guys might play at the same school together, and at this point, Kamari Rogers doesn't have an Ohio State offer. So, I think if they're going to play together, Notre Dame is a likely option at this point. Another big cornerback target for Notre Dame is Terrence Brooks, the guy I was able to see at the Under Armour Dallas camp a couple weeks ago. Impressive player, corner, safety, nickel. He can play wherever. I think his highest upside's at corner. His father, Chet Brooks, played at Texas A&M. So the Aggies will be tough to beat in the recruitment, but Notre Dame is pushing the right buttons in this recruitment. I think Terrence Brooks is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Nikai Martinez, more of a nickel guy at his size, about 5'9", 5'10". A really nice player. He had a nice junior season down there in Apopka in Central Florida in the Orlando area. Rivals 250 guy. I've got a future cast pick in for Notre Dame to land him. I honestly thought it might have been wrapped up by now. I thought Notre Dame might have already landed this commitment. So the longer this one's kind of going on, I'm like, maybe Clemson does want him in their class. I was thinking maybe Clemson was cooling off and Notre Dame would be able to scoop him up. But, now I'm hearing that Clemson is very involved in this recruitment. It's really been a Clemson, Florida, Notre Dame battle for Martinez really since last fall when the Fighting Irish offered him. But still, keep an eye on Nikai Martinez. Can certainly see him ending up in the class. Someone we don't talk enough about, and I'm actually going to have a story up on him at blueandgold.com on Friday afternoon, is Benjamin Morrison from Phoenix Brophy Prep, just inside the Rivals 250 at number 249. This is the guy who's had really good conversations with Marcus Freeman and Mike Mickens and that Irish staff. More of a recent offer, offered just in the past few weeks, but definitely keep an eye on Benjamin Morrison. Jaden Bellamy. This is a young man who Notre Dame's been involved with and looking at for several months. Ohio State just recently offered him. Oklahoma has offered him. Penn State. And this is just since his junior season wrapped up. Notre Dame also in the mix here. Right now, I think Notre Dame might have the slight edge, but he is just someone who is blowing up again. Ohio State just offered this week, and that certainly was an eye-popping one. Try to keep this video as short as possible, so we're going to quickly go through these guys. Devin Moore from Naples, Florida, likely a Florida lean, but Notre Dame has done a nice job in this recruitment. Marcus Freeman, Mickens, Chris O'Leary. Devin Moore, someone to keep an eye on if he visits. Watch out. Xavier Nwankpa, probably an Ohio State lean, but the top safety on the board right now, Sherrod Coville, another big safety target for Notre Dame, a 4-star guy. Had details on him on Thursday night in Lucky Charms, which you can catch at blueandgold.com. Keep an eye on Sherrod Coville. Think Notre Dame will get an official visit from him. Jaden Mangum, a 4-star safety. Man, he looks good on film. He can play receiver, corner, really anywhere in the defensive backfield or on offense at the next level. Notre Dame, a top school for him. Jake Pope, probably a little bit more of a long shot. Think he's going to stay in the South. Just about everyone is recruiting him, but Notre Dame was in early on this recruitment, offering him, I believe it was last August or September. Keep an eye on Jake Pope if he's able to visit Notre Dame. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, some of the other schools in the mix here. A couple more guys. KJ Winston, someone I really could see end up at Notre Dame, and his 3-star ranking is something I think will not be for long. I think he's going to be a 4-star player. Just in my opinion, when the recruiting rankings wrap up for this 2022 class, Notre Dame offered him several months ago. Actually, just a couple months ago. And I think Notre Dame's the team to beat there right now. And the last guy, Jared Kirk, probably not someone we talk about a ton. From Texas, Notre Dame's had really good contact with him. And I would think that there's a good chance he ends up in Notre Dame's class if he takes a visit. But at this point, guys, there's just so many. Like that was, 5 minutes just talking about a dozen guys, and there's more we could have talked about. Notre Dame's defensive backboard, plenty of talent, and it's a long list of guys too. Well, that's going to do it for this week's recruiting wrap. Appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of this video. Again, make sure you hit the thumbs up button before you get out of here. Go to blueandgold.com for all of your Notre Dame athletics coverage. And lock in right here to our YouTube page. Check out some of our other videos covering Notre Dame football and recruiting. Appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next Friday.